Lori Michelle for Running on Love with God, the weekly program. And I'm here in Israel hosting the program today. And Anna Marie, you're in Chicago. And today we're going to be talking about psychological projection. What is it? And who are the victims of psychological projection? Everyone's a victim of psychological projection throughout our lives. We've all been victimized by this terrible behavior. But the problem is that everyone in the world has been victimized because at some time or another, every human being succumbs and uses this form of behavior to deflect what they don't want to face within themselves. I'm going to give a little bit of an example, Anna Marie, before we get started, from childhood, because we come into this world as a baby, and as a baby, we come with a clean slate. We really come here as perfection, and I posted a picture on Facebook, on social media, and it had a magnifying glass over the word perfect, and it was part of the word imperfect. And I wrote, they are screaming at you that you're not perfect. Those weren't the exact words, but I said in the post, God doesn't do anything that's not perfect. We come into this world as a creation of Him, and we come with a clean slate. We have things to work on, soul corrections, if you will, but they're really more of soul ascensions, things that we didn't get right the last time, and we need to work on them again and accomplish them and master those things. But we come and we're a baby and we grow up, and here comes the problem. By the time we can speak, we're surrounded by older siblings and parents, and they've been around a lot longer than us, and they know the ropes a lot more than we do. And if we misspeak or do something that they see as incorrect, the chances of them firing a rocket at our head is very high. Let's give an example. Let's say you're a child, a small child, and you're sharing a bowl of potato chips with your older brother. And maybe he walks away and you ate a few potato chips, and he comes back and he sees that there are a few potato chips missing, that you ate a few too many in his mind. And let's say he starts screaming at you. How could you? And he starts calling you names. You're selfish. You only think of yourself. You ate all the potato chips. Everybody hates you. You hear the oil on the fire. And now he's got the whole room of the entire family in there with you, and he's saying, and mom thinks you're selfish, and dad thinks you're selfish. Everybody knows you are selfish and you're rotten and blah, 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 blah. That's projection. He's angry about the potato chips, but at this point, the potato chips are stale. Nobody's talking about the potato chips. We're not solving any problems. We're name calling. We're bringing mom into the room. We're bringing dad into the room. We're bringing Uncle Harry into the room. Everybody agrees with me. And that's what psychological projection looks like as a child. Now let's fast forward to today. Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin just gave a press conference that I watched after the Shabbat, the Sabbath. It was on Friday, and I didn't get to see it. And I watched it with Hashem guiding me, and we watched in horror. Why? I was actually feeling compassionate towards Kathy. She's in a lot of pain. She's receiving death threats. She's scared. Her career is virtually over. But what she engaged in the aftermath of doing something that was clearly wrong, she held up a picture of a beheaded President of our United States. If you haven't seen the news, go check it out. She did something that she thought was artsy and fun and part of her comedic personality. But it was clearly wrong. It was vicious. It was evil. And even in her initial apology, she never really apologized. She was completely off subject. And if you watched the press conference, I was horrified because during the press conference, she hired an attorney, she had another expert there on freedom of speech, and she kept going on and cracking jokes and bringing up the Russians, that Donald Trump is trying to skirt the issue of the Russian investigation. Well, why are the Russians in the room, right? And what else? There were other things she said that, at least I didn't grab someone by their you-know-what. Why are we talking about that? That's old news before President Trump actually became President Trump. So all of those things are deflecting, getting away from the real issues, and they're not helpful. And she's not helping her case by saying things like, you're messing with the wrong redhead to President Trump. What's that going to do, Anna Marie? Is that going to make President Trump say, oh, no, I'm not going to mess with you? No. President Trump, whether you like him or not, is the president. And let's not give him a free pass. He is the king of projection. If you ever hear his tweets, there was a tweet that he made about Meryl Streep, who said something, and many things not nice about him. And he said something about how she's a rotten actress. Like, she's a terrible actress. Who cares? It's off subject. It's a deflection. And it's psychological projection. And we're getting nowhere. We're not solving any problems. If Kathy Griffin wanted to make her life better, she made a horrible choice. I can't even believe she made that choice. But when she made an apology, she should have made a sincere, heartfelt apology. Not, I get it. She made comments like, I realized I went over the line. I get it. I get it. That's sort of like, whatever. Wasn't heartfelt. And I thought back to families who have lost their loved ones to these awful, disgusting beheadings. And I thought of James Foley. Remember him? And I wondered how his parents or his family felt about Kathy Griffin's sense of humor. She needs to take herself out of her own self and her ego and her view of the world from her eyes, and she needs to be able to put herself in someone else's shoes. And she wasn't doing that at all. If she had done that and apologized emotionally, not about Kathy, not my career is over, he's ruined me. No, it's not about Kathy Griffin. It's about Baron Trump. It's about President Trump. He has a right to be angry. If anybody in the world receives more death threats than Donald Trump, I would be very surprised. And so her actions, when I saw what she did, according to God himself, he says was criminal. Literally, that her actions were literally can be prosecuted in the court of law. That's how bad her actions were. Freedom of speech does not cover it. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, do you mean her initial action was criminal, or do you mean her apology, her reaction was criminal, or both?
Her initial portrayal of a beheading of the president.
Okay.
It was literally prosecutable. Did I say the right word?
Yeah.
It's worthy of prosecution. There are certain things that are not protected by the First Amendment. and that's one of them. Inciting that kind of violence or glorifying violence against any human being, let alone the president, no matter what you think of him, is criminal. So, but I did feel compassion, but she pulls you away from feeling compassion when she starts to be, again, derisive and throwing rockets back at President Trump and making it his fault. That it's your fault I have no career. It's the old white people who run the media. It's their fault. When you make a mistake and you sin, transgress in the eyes of God, the first thing you need to do is, I am sorry. I am humiliated. I can't believe I did that. I didn't play it through. And now that I see it in black and white or in full color, I see what everybody else sees, and I'm horrified. That is not me. If she has to take notes, she should take notes about what I'm saying. That is not me. That is not Kathy Griffin. And I will prove it to you for the rest of my life. And one thing she didn't do is she didn't sincerely, from her heart, apologize to the president. She didn't apologize. President Trump, I'm horrified. They show her in pictures in the past, kissing him, taking pictures with him. So she should be on camera. Donald Trump, President Trump, I'm so sorry. Private calls. Instead of having a lawyer stand beside her at a press conference, belittling the president and taunting him, saying you're messing with the wrong redhead, she should have, I think her name is Lisa Bloom, call the president and ask for a private meeting of apology. What can I do to remedy this? It was the most awful thing I could ever do. What can I do to make up for this? Yeah, I think even the most angry politician, even Donald Trump, would respect that. Maybe. At this point, I don't know. So, fire away.
All right. What is the difference between psychological projection and bullying and evil speak? You've done shows on all three topics, or are they all related? Or do they all come from the same bad impulse?
What a great question, because I thought about this. There's probably a lot of psychological behaviors that are intertwined, narcissism, egotism, all kinds of things. But at the root cause of all of these things is Yetzer Hara, and you're probably going to hear that every week, probably every day that I speak. Yetzer Hara is Hebrew for the evil inclination, and the evil inclination is something that the world doesn't know about. It's absent from their education, and it's at the root cause of every single problem we see in the entire world. Yetzer Hara. And it's a word that I can't say it often enough. When I had my awakening, Anna Marie, I went right to my rabbi and I said, okay, teach me. There's stuff I don't know. I didn't know anything, really. And he taught me a class in Tanya, and it's about the spiritual side of Judaism from God. It came from God, from Moses. And he taught me about the Yetzer Hara. And I'm reading this in his class, and I said, Yetzer Hara, what is this? Evil inclination. I never heard of this before. And as time went on, and I was going through my awakening, I remember seeing my rabbi, and he came to my office one day, and I said, Rabbi, this Yetzer Hara thing, it's a big problem. And he laughed at me, and he said, yeah, Lori, I know. I said, no, Rabbi, It's a really big problem. Even the most lofty rabbis fall to the Yetzer Hara. The most religious, God-fearing people fall to the Yetzer Hara. It's the evil inclination. That's the source of it all. The source of evil speaking, narcissism, projection, all of it.
Okay, so you mentioned in your intro that this behavior is common in people with low self-esteem, meaning that using psychological projection. How can a victim help a perpetrator build self-esteem so that the projection stops? Or what should a victim do in the moment while it's happening?
Build self-esteem in the attacker?
Well, if that's what's causing the attacks, if it's coming from low self-esteem, how do you stop the attacks?
Well, we're not in charge of other people's self-esteem. And buttering up your opponent and telling them how wonderful they are, it could lower the attack, you know. They want to hear that, true. But I don't know that that's very realistic, Anna Marie, that in the heat of everything that you could get someone to compliment someone who's calling you names. Oh, you're just so wonderful. No, I don't think so. So what do you do with it when you're under attack? Well, the first thing you do is pause. And if you don't want to be guilty of the same bad behavior, you need to silence yourself at first. And what am I looking at? The potato chip example. Let's use a child's example. Did I do something wrong? Am I selfish? Well, it was about the potato chips. So really, there was nothing that child could do in that moment. The accusations, the screaming, the yelling, it was really inflamed. In that moment, in those kinds of moments, the best thing you can do is walk away. But that's not the end of it, Anna Marie, because you can be in an argument and someone could be firing salvos at you, rockets at you, and they can say terrible things, and especially if you're a young child, it sticks to you. It works on your own self-esteem. So let's talk about grown-ups like you and I. If someone calls you a name, don't accept it, walk away, and evaluate what just happened here. Did I do something wrong? Don't take for granted 1 minute that it's all their fault, or you're guilty of psychological projection too. That person was clearly angry at you. You might have done something wrong, but take the time to pause. Now, if it's a situation where you can calm it down and get it back on subject, then do that. Okay, so you're in your husband and wife, and something goes wrong, and the husband starts yelling at you, "It's your fault. You always side with our son, and our son is rotten, and now it's the son's fault, and now you're always siding with the son," and the natural reaction would be, "I do not. You do that. You do that with your daughter and my whatever." I don't know. I'm going on and on. The best thing to do is try your best to calm it down, and it might mean, like you do with children, time out. Time out. This is not good. We're off subject. We were just talking about potato chips, and now we're off talking about my son and your daughter and blah, blah, blah. Time out. And when you come back level-headed, do your best to stay on topic. Don't let them pull you off topic and bring other people into the conversation. And if they do, it's not a very functional relationship or conversation. You can't fight a battle if you're fighting the entire war right in that minute. You have a battle, you have a disagreement, you got to talk about the disagreement. And then if there's more, if there's a history, well, then you gradually, okay, now let's talk about that. One thing at a time, one issue at a time.
Okay, so if you want to keep yourself from engaging in that behavior, is the advice the same? Meaning that you should think through what the real issue is before you talk to somebody, or what else can you say?
Okay. Rather than being generic, let's pick an example so that we can be more specific and say, how would we handle this? So can you give me one, or should I make up one, of an example where you were in an argument with someone recently, no names, or you heard of an argument, and we can use that as an example and pick it apart, how you should handle it. Do you have one? Or?
Well, I was at a meeting where one person just stood up and launched an attack on the other person. And then it turned into a really ugly fight. And so they were giving it back to each other.
In a business
I guess in my mind, the first... Yeah. And I know, it was really, really uncomfortable. In my mind, the first person wasn't justified, but let's say the first person was. Let's say that the other person spent budget money that wasn't authorized. And the first person is really mad about the other person spending that money. What should they do?
Okay, so it's about money. And so someone stands up and says, you did this with the money, and that was irresponsible, and it's your fault.
And you always do this, and you don't pay attention to what we're really...
Everybody agrees. They all agree. We're all on the same side. It's us against you. So who do we want to discuss first? The one who's launching the attack? Not really, right? The one who's being attacked.
Well, no. So let's say that the one who's launching the attack has a legitimate concern. How do you express that concern without making it an attack?
Okay, well, that's an easy one. Let's say you're on the topic of money, and there's someone in the room who is irresponsible with money, and you want to make it known. And they're in charge of the money, perhaps. A private sidebar is probably the most appropriate than to make a spectacle in front of the entire boardroom and humiliate someone. You have to wonder why someone would want to stand up and make such a display if it wasn't narcissism and egotism, and to put that other person down and knock that person down at the knees. So...
Okay, but now right there, aren't you engaging in psychological projection? Because you're calling the first person a narcissist and an egotist.
No, I don't know this. I don't know the situation. I'm just saying that if you stand up in a boardroom where other people maybe aren't even privy to this information, and you start name-calling someone, it's of no use. You're making a spectacle and humiliating someone in front of everyone else. You're not problem solving. You're not really worried about the money. You're more concerned about knocking that person to their knees and diminishing them in the eyes of everybody in the room. And when you diminish, anytime you have a need to push someone down, instead of heal them and bring them up, you have an insecurity in yourself. Because if I can push you down and I can make you look bad, I look better. I'm not the one who stole the money, you are. So... Okay, go ahead.
Well, then what should the second person do? So the second person who's under this attack, how should she respond so it doesn't get worse?
Okay. So the first person should never have done that, should have done it privately, made it about the money. This happened before. We had this situation, the money was handled inappropriately, and I'd like to address this now. And hopefully the person wants to solve and heal that problem. whatever that problem is, explain herself or his self and heal it. But if that didn't happen and what you said occurs, and the name calling, and it's in the middle of a boardroom, and you're under attack, the best thing to do is not to respond and attack back. But not to be a doormat and not to be, let them, call me names, say, stop. Stand up physically. If someone's under attack, stand up and say, stop. Quiet. If this is about money or my handling of money, I'm willing to discuss it, but I will not listen to your attacks. I will not allow you to call me names, and I will not allow this whole room to hear our dirty laundry. If you want to heal this problem with me, I am ready and willing to resolve this with you at another time, at a later time, but not here and not now, and you may not call me names. You may not attack me. You may not raise your voice to me. Okay.
Then the final part of this question, if you're in the room, you're one of the people at the meeting, and you're horrified by what's going on, is there anything that a third party can do when they're seeing somebody engaging in psychological projection and then someone else giving it back?
I'm getting right now, stay out of it. It's not your problem. I'm getting also, don't form opinions. Guard your thoughts and guard your speech. Don't inflame the situation. You can ameliorate it by saying, okay, everybody, let's calm down. And if you'd like to take this outside privately, you may. But we all don't want to get into a big rift here. Calm down. If you can, calm the situation, but don't involve yourself in something where you don't know what's going on. And don't go to the defense of someone, the ready defense. You might be, oh, that's my friend. Oh, you shut up. Don't you call her name. And then it gets into a fight. Don't do that, obviously.
Okay, so you can just ask them to calm down and move it to another location, but you cannot jump in and try to fix it.
Well, what are you fixing? That's the whole issue that started this whole conversation. If it was about money and the proper handling of money, that's what the person should have said in the first place. I have concerns about the proper handling of money. Can we discuss this? Can we have guidelines? But to stand up in a room and start calling someone names and attacking them is not directly discussing the problem, and we have a minute and a half left. You're skirting the issue. It's projection. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, big question. In your Q&A intro, you said that the only way to stop psychological projection is to engage in real understanding and learning and peel it apart one rotten layer at a time. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The rotten layers are what I referred to before when you said, well, there's all kinds of problems, Lori. There's evil speaking, there's all these issues, narcissism, psychological projection. Which one is it? At the core of all of these issues is Yetzirah, the evil inclination. And what that is an inclination and a silent voice that lures you away from doing the right thing. And the way you recognize the evil inclination is it's not anything that God would ever say or do. It is not goodness. It is not of God. And to peel the rotten layers, what I mean by that is learn how to discern before the words come out of your mouth, before you take action, before you stand up in a boardroom and start yelling at someone. Make sure you discern and don't choose the evil inclination. Thank you for joining us for this broadcast of Running on Love with God. I hope you found it interesting and enlightening. And please go to my website, lauriemichelle.net, and you can make a private appointment with me, and I can help you. That's why I'm here. That's my purpose. I want to help you get it right. I want to help you learn how to discern and bring peace in our world, because if we work on ourselves, we can heal ourselves and we can heal the world and bring peace in our time. God bless you. May there be peace on earth in our time. God bless you.